working with a client running a restaurant called Vegan Gardens. The client is looking for a mobile app which will allow their customers to book a table. Let us use this simple case study and see who the stakeholders for this project are, how to identify them, and the challenges faced while interacting with them. Question 1. Who is a stakeholder? Stakeholder can be defined in simple terms as a party who will be impacted with the change. They can be classified under two categories: who receives the benefit and who will deliver the change. Who receives the benefit? These are the end users, customers, business unit managers, operation team manager, and so on. And who will deliver the change? This is the project team ranging from project managers, developers, testers, trainers, and so on. Moving on to question number 2. Who are the list of stakeholders you have worked with? This question is asked by the interviewer to know the depth of your interactions. We can cover the various stakeholders here. Again, look at from our classification earlier. For the first category, who receives the benefit? It comprises of business unit manager of the unit which gets benefited. In our example, it would be the sales department manager who would be benefited by this change, as it would help to streamline and ease table booking for the customers, which should result in increase in the number of visitors, boosting sales, and also help in saving cost by reducing the number of people allocated for taking phone reservations. The next would be the customers. In the example again, the customers who have to call and wait for making the table reservations can do so just with the touch of few buttons in their mobile and can get a table booked with instant confirmation sent to them. This solution would also benefit the staff at the hotel who are also using the staff end of the application for viewing the customer reservations. All the manual tasks for checking the availability and making the list of reservations for the given day have all been automated, and this results in increased staff efficiency. Subject matter expert. They are usually part of the business unit operations team who have been working on the current system and process for a considerable amount of time and are usually experts and can provide guidance on the current state and also help to identify problems and provide recommendations on the target state. The last category is regulators. They are regulating body who ensure compliance. In our example, they may not be appropriate but just wanted to list as they are also a key stakeholder. So, as part of the requirement gathering sessions, the above stakeholders are your key people you need to engage and gather the requirements, as you would be working to satisfy their needs and objectives. Coming to the next category, who delivers the change. This includes the business sponsor who is responsible for funding and delivering the change and is your key stakeholder to engage when you are stuck or you need guidance, and also sponsor would help in identifying the stakeholders. Next, we have the support business units like legal and marketing units. They will also provide further guidance on shaping the change to ensure we are covered from all the angles. The rest of the people are what is generally termed as the project team. Project managers can be one or more based on the scale of the project. They ensure the project gets delivered as per the deadline and are responsible for the plan. Then we have the developers and testers to develop and test the software in accordance with the functional requirements. Lastly, the trainer who is responsible for training the staff with a new system. In our example, trainer can be a senior person in the staff who would be responsible for training the staff with navigation and working of the new system, and also creation of standard operating procedures. BA works with them by providing working screenshots of the system and also help to draft the standard operating procedures. This covers more or less the list of stakeholders and when you are explaining, you can use your project examples and go over. Question number 3. How do you identify stakeholders? This is another commonly asked question. The interviewer would ask, once you join the project, what would be your approach for identifying the stakeholders? Listed below are a few techniques. First one, contacting business sponsor. You can get a list of stakeholders by contacting the business sponsor. You can also check with the project manager who would be able to help you with the stakeholder list. Second one, organization charts. You can use the organization charts of the impacted business unit to identify the stakeholder list. Third one, process models. In complex environment where the process is handled by multiple teams, if you can look at the process models, it would help to identify the impacted teams. Fourth one, document analysis. If you look at the existing documents of your organization, you can get the stakeholder list from there. Fifth one, also when you are meeting the identified stakeholders, they will also provide some names during the discussion, and that is another source of getting the impacted stakeholders. In our case study, since it is a small team of people, the business sponsor in our example would be the owner of the restaurant chain who would be able to provide the names of the managers from sales and operations teams, and also based on the discussion with them, we can get additional names. Moving on to question 4. What would happen if you miss a key stakeholder? The interviewer might ask, since there are a lot of stakeholders in a complex program and missing one of you is possible, and what do you think will happen if we miss? Again, it's a good question which emphasizes on the stakeholder management. The answer is, the solution which we are developing may not go live until the requirement of the missing stakeholder is taken care of, causing delays, and it may also result in development and testing rework, as it may have an impact on the existing functionalities. Let us take an example from our case study. What if we did not engage the operations team on the ground who is involved in seating of the customers? Their requirement could have been to have a screen which shows the list of reservations for the given day and the allocated table numbers. In case this is not built, even though everything is ready from a customer perspective, we still cannot go live with the solution until this is built. This would result in developing the screen near to the go live, causing delays and reworks. Hence, it is very important to identify all the impacted stakeholders at the beginning phase of the project. Question number 5. What is a RACI matrix? RACI matrix stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. It provides a view of the responsibilities of the involved stakeholders. Let us take the requirements task in the table as an example to walk through. First one is R, which is responsible. This indicates the person who will be performing the task. As you are all aware, business analyst is a person who will be gathering and documenting the requirements. Hence, in the table, if you can see under the requirements task, it is marked as R for the business analyst. Next is A, or accountable. This is a person who is accountable for the task. In our example, business analyst is responsible for gathering and documenting the requirements, and the project manager is accountable to ensure it is done within the agreed timelines. Project manager is ultimately held accountable and answerable for the successful completion of the task. Next in the line is C, which stands for consulted. This stands for the stakeholders who will be asked to provide information or guidance about the task. In our example, SME group is marked as C, as they would be the participants of the requirement gathering sessions and the ones who provide the requirements to the business analyst. Next in the list is I, which stands for informed. This is the next group of stakeholders who need to be informed. In our example, I have marked the technical lead and test leads as informed, as they have to be kept informed about the completion of the requirement gathering. Question number 6. What is a stakeholder matrix? Stakeholder matrix is a list of stakeholders, as you can see on the slide. It has the following details of the stakeholder like name, role, their contact details, impact to them due to the change, and also their influence to shape the change. Let us look at the example matrix created for our case study. We have John, who is the restaurant owner and sponsor for this project, who has high impact and high influence. You have to work closely with him and ensure you have his agreement and support on all aspects of the change. Next, we have Jane, who is the operations manager. The change has high impact on her, as she and her team needs to adapt to the new ways of looking up at the reservations and using the tool to seat the customers, but she does not have high influence. However, she and her team are also key end users of this staff side of the application, and Rahul, our BA from the case study, should engage and understand their needs and interests. They can become the goodwill ambassadors for the change. Next up in the line, we have Sean, who is one of our chefs and one who gave a tour of the kitchen and walkthrough of the menu when Rahul visited the restaurant, as there is a next change proposal to enable online delivery, but from the current change there is not much impact to Sean, and hence from an impact perspective we have none, and also he has low influence. He just have to be kept informed at the most on what is happening on the change. Then we have Kaylee, who is the finance manager. She has no impact directly due to the change, but has high influence as she holds the budget. The BA should meet and ensure she is briefed and rally up her interest in this change. Question number 7. What are personas? Personas are fictional characters which represent your typical customers. They are helpful to understand the customer's needs and build the product accordingly. First off, personas would be created based on the brainstorming ideas by the internal team, and post that research is conducted with the actual customers to validate the team's assumptions using a number of requirement gathering techniques. Identifying and validating the needs of the personas are very important to ensure we are building the product which satisfies their need. Let us take two personas for example. First one, the office manager. This is a typical manager who has number of team members reporting to him. There would be quarterly or sometimes monthly team outings, and the manager is responsible for looking for the fun places to have a team lunch or dinner. Their needs are quick snapshot of the service offerings and also a receipt of the bill emailed to them so that they can do claims for reimbursement, as all the outings are billed to the company. Second one is the family man who wants to book on the weekends for a brunch, lunch or a dinner. He does not care about the digital copy of the bill, but is very keen on the services offered for the kids and the seating arrangements. If you see, just going with the high level, we have got two requirements. First one, soft copy of the bill to be emailed as a PDF. Second one, the service offerings should be shown in the booking app or the website. Again, these two are just assumptions and have to be validated based on the actual customer research. Moving to the last question in the series, question number 8. Tell me about a time when you managed a difficult stakeholder. This is a very common question, and I have just listed two of the common scenarios. I bet you would have faced one of these in your project you have worked on. The first one is the conflicting stakeholders. This is very commonly faced where the key stakeholders are not agreeing with a decision or an approach, and without their agreement, we cannot move forward. One of the things which works in this scenario is meeting them separately and identifying their concerns and work on mitigating the same. In our case study, let us consider a scenario where the sales department head wants to only focus on having the website or the application for the customer to make the booking, but the operations head wants to have a fully functional staff-facing portal to help the staff, for which the sales head feels is a wasted effort. Rahul, our BA, can meet both and try to facilitate an agreement. As you see, both of them from their point of view are right. Here Rahul can meet them separately and understand their concerns and explain a workable approach, which in this case can be, in addition to the customer facing website and application, a minimalistic staff facing portal with only some 2 to 3 key functions can be considered. This would be a win-win situation for both the parties. Second one is unavailability of stakeholders. This is a very common problem. You invite the key stakeholders for meeting and they don't turn up. They don't return your phone calls or your emails. There are two approaches for working through this situation. The first one can be in the communication to the stakeholder, whether it is an email or a voicemail, you can explain the importance of the project and the impact and the benefit the change will have on their department. This usually works by getting their attention. Second one can be approaching to connect you with their deputy or any other team member who can help if they are busy at the moment. This is a common issue when dealing with senior stakeholders, and the above two approaches work like charm. Use your project experience and see if you can link them to these two categories while answering.
Hello there. Do you have a business analyst interview coming up shortly? If so, this is the video for you. As you know, a key responsibility or a skill for a business analyst is to elucidate, document, and maintain requirements. And this video is going to help you to discover the top 9 commonly asked questions in business analyst interviews on requirements so that you are well prepared. To make it easier for grasping the concepts in the answers, we're going to use a case study. In this case study, a movie theater chain called XYZ Cinemas is looking to build a digital channel for allowing the customers to book their movie tickets online rather than calling up the customer care or standing in the long queues and getting their tickets at the ticket counter. So we are going to use this example case study for answering all the questions. Question number 1. How do you define a requirement? As per Babok version 3, a requirement is defined as a usable representation of a need. To simply put, a requirement is an articulation of a business need for solving a problem or capitalizing on a business opportunity. This representation is actually required for the engineering team to develop the solution accordingly to meet the business need. I've listed few of the examples here. So these are different types of requirements which we'll be covering in this video. I just listed it here to give you a view of the requirements. So number 1, sales department needs a digital channel for allowing customers to book their movie tickets online. Basically, it's expanding on the case study. Then the system shall display the available seats for a movie show. Systems shall allow the customers to select the available seats. A system should respond within 2 seconds of a user's input. A customer can book a maximum of 10 tickets at one time. So these are all different statements. As I was stating earlier, these are all different types of requirements which we'll be covering shortly. The nature of the representation may be a document or set of documents, and it varies depending on the circumstances and the methodology used in developing a solution. We're going to cover this in question number 9, so stay tuned. Question number 2. What is the difference between a business and a functional requirement? This is one of the tricky questions which is asked in the interview. I'll try to simplify it using the below two tables. First off, business requirement. Business requirements are basically representation of a business need, goal, objective, or outcomes. It represents the what. Example, sales department needs a digital channel for allowing customers to book their movie tickets. It's very high level and it just represent what is required by the sales department. It doesn't give guidance on how it can be achieved. It just represents the what. Functional requirements, on the other side, they describe what a system must do to achieve the business requirements. It represents the how. Example, the system shall display the available seats for a movie show. The system shall allow the customers to select the available seat. Ideally, it talks more on how to meet the business requirement, and you can see it kind of ties back into the business requirement. Question number three, what is a non-functional requirement? So this question can be asked as a standalone question, or it can be also stated as, can you tell the difference between a functional and a non-functional requirement? So we're going to cover that in this slide. Now, non-functional requirement is a quality requirement or a constraint to the solution. So it covers the following aspects. So first one is performance. So what should be the response time for a system to respond to a user's input? So that is captured as part of a non-functional requirement related to performance. The second one would be security, how secure the system or the solution should be. Third one would be the reliability. So there are a few applications or systems which should be up all the time. So we can state that the system should be available 99% of the time. So this would be a reliability non-functional requirement which can be captured. Then the next one would be usability, how easy it is for the users to use the system or the solution which we're developing. The next one would be maintainability, how easy it can to maintain this solution. And on the last one would be related to portability. So these are some few aspects which we are going to document as part of as a non NFR, which is non-functional requirements for the solution which is being developed. So let's look at an example. The system should respond within 2 seconds of a user's input, so which is a performance NFR. So as we discussed in the previous slide regarding the functional requirement for the system to display the available seats. So if we try to put it together, so a customer should be able to click on a movie show, and within 2 seconds the system should show them with a list of available seats. So that's how we are, tying it together to have a great customer experience. Question number four, what is a business rule? This is a question where most of the people get it wrong. So let me try to simplify this. As per Babok version 3, a business rule is a specific testable directive that serves as a criterion for guiding behavior, shaping judgments, or making decisions. That's a little complex definition, but to simply put, a business rule is a criterion or a constraint which has to be followed by the solution or the system which we are building. So for example, the XYZ cinemas, they had a business rule that a customer can book only up to a maximum of 10 tickets at a single time while calling up the customer care or standing in the line at the ticket counter. So this ensured that there are plenty of tickets available for everyone. So this business rule has to be taken into consideration while developing this digital solution, digital channel. So this gives rise to a functional requirement for restricting the number of seats which a customer can book at a single point of time. So for example, it can be stated as such. like this, the functional requirement that the system should not allow the customers to select more than 10 available seats. So this is a restriction which we are capturing as part of a functional requirement, which was basically derived from a business rule. Question number 5. What are the requirement elicitation techniques you have used in the past? I can bet you 100% that this question will be asked in each and every business analyst interview. The reason, as I stated earlier, eliciting requirement is one of the key skill and key responsibility of a BA, and the interviewer would definitely love to hear how well you have done it in the past and also what are the different techniques which you have used. I've listed most of the commonly used techniques in this slide and we're going to cover them one by one. The first one is the workshop. This is one of the highly recommended technique for gathering high quality requirements in a short span of time. I've already made a video on how to run a successful workshop and gather requirements in less than one session. You can check out in the link below, in the description link below. So taking example of XYZ cinemas, if you want to perform a capture requirement using workshop technique, then you have to invite all the key people or SMEs from the sales department, customer care department, ticket counter, finance. So all the key people from different departments who are involved in this particular digital solution. So can get everyone into a single session in a room. It can be few hours or even it can be a day. If they are spread across, it can be done via video conferencing or web conferencing. So you have all the participants and you can get the requirements and their views on how the digital solution would be, and it can be captured and for further solution development. Second one is the interview technique. So in case if you're not able to get all these uh, different people from different departments at a single session, then you can schedule separate interview sessions with each of them and try to gather the requirements which they need from this digital solution. So it can be done on an individual basis, and if there are two or more people available, it can be done as a group interview as well. So again, this is also one of the commonly used technique for capturing requirement or eliciting requirements. The third one would be observation. It can be passive or active. So observation, if you take an example, you can walk down to the ticket counter and you can see how the staff is getting the request from the customer and issuing the tickets. Like it can show which seats they want, how the customer select. So all these things can be observed and it can be translated as a requirement for the digital channel to kind of mimic this process. So there, as I stated, there are two types of observation, passive and active. Passive is you just stand there and observe and try to gather as much information or requirements. And active is you stand there, observe, but now you can ask question to the staff who's issuing the tickets or who's doing it. Like, why are you doing it this way? Is there a reason? It provides more insight and it can be kind of uh, translated to the requirements for the digital channel. The fourth one would be the document analysis. So this can be the documents which are available on the process. It can be the procedures. It can be the business rules. So the business rule which we kind of spoke about in the previous question would be would be found out from this document analysis technique, and it can be translated to a functional requirement. The next one would be the focus groups and the brainstorming. They're more similar to workshops, and it's again done in a similar way. Brainstorming is more of taking one item and trying to get the ideas and the views from people and kind of ranking it them, and again translating into requirements and also the priority of them. The next one would be the process analysis. So the process analysis is looking at the uh, looking at the end-to-end process, if it's already there, if not, creating one and then meeting up with the stakeholder and showing them, okay, this is the process flow, what all the things you need from a digital solution which you are building. Okay, so this is also a good way of capturing the requirements, looking at the end-to-end process so you don't miss out on anything. The next one would be prototyping. Again, if let's say if you want to look at the detailing of the digital solution, you can do a mock-up of the screen navigation flow, and then you can walk up to the stakeholders and ask them, okay, in this screen, what all the elements do you need? Is this better, or do you need a different color to kind of sync up with your brand? So all those detailing can be achieved using the prototype technique. The last one would be survey or questionnaire. This is again used only if you want to collect the response from a huge number of stakeholders. For example, if you want to get a view of which of a feature would be beneficial for the customer, so you can just draft few of the questions and send it across to the entire sales department or customer care department, and then they can select the options, and then you can get it back, and that can be used for framing the requirements and also prioritization. So these are some few techniques which I've covered. Definitely, this is a question which would be coming up. So this can be used by, you can answer these questions by using some experience from your previous projects. Question number 6. What is the difference between verification and validation of a requirement? Another tricky question. So verification refers to ensuring that the requirement meets the quality standards. That is, whether the requirement is clear, is it consistent with other requirements, there's no contradiction, whether the requirement is complete, whether it is testable, whether it is unambiguous, and also whether it's understandable to all the stakeholders involved, the development team, the testing team. So it ensures that the quality of the requirement um, is good enough for the engineering team to proceed with it. Validation, on the other hand, refers to whether the requirement is kind of aligned to the business need, goal, or outcome, and whether it really supports the needed value. So let's say in our example, if we take a requirement which talks about allowing the customers to book refreshments over a digital channel, it's a good requirement, and it kind of satisfy the verification criteria, but uh, whether is it aligned to the business need or the goal of a digital channel to allow customers to book tickets. It's a good feature, but it's not really aligned to that particular high level business requirement. Hence, when the validation process takes place, this kind of requirement is termed as low priority and can be revisited once the key requirements are delivered. Question number 7. What is RTM, or requirement traceability matrix? So this is one of an important tool or technique which is used to trace requirements. So this provides backward and forward traceability as shown in this diagram, and it helps faster impact analysis and reliable assessment to ensure that all the business requirements are covered. So if we look at this example, RTM, or requirement traceability matrix, so the business requirement will be mapped to the stakeholder requirements, stakeholder requirement 1 and 2. So in our example, if we talk about the digital channel for allowing customers to book tickets, the stakeholder requirement number 1 can be related to the customer facing screens and how it allows, and the other stakeholders who can be involved would be the backend team or the back office operations team, and what are the requirements from their side to process the customer's online booking. So that's how the different stakeholders will have a different set of requirements. So the first level of mapping would be with respect to the business requirement and to the stakeholder requirements. And then the stakeholder requirements would be mapped to the functional requirements and also the non-functional requirements, which we spoke about. And then the functional requirements or non-functional requirements in turn would be mapped to the design component. Okay, in order to deliver this functional requirement, what are the design components required? So if you take an example of the screen to show the customers the list of available seats. So the design would involve different screens and also the logic for showing up the available seats. So that all comes under the design, and then the design component maps to the code. So in which a particular language the the code is there. It may be Java, .NET, or it can be any other new technologies like Python. So all of this uh, programming comes under the code, and it is mapped to the design component. And once the code is kind of completed, and then it maps to the test case. So the test case would ensure that um, the code which is developed works accordingly to the requirement. So this kind of gives an end-to-end mapping to ensure that a business requirement is kind of developed and tested. So it's a very useful tool, and this is one of the key things which also used on a day-to-day basis, and it can be asked in an interview.
Hello there. Requirements prioritization. Hmm. This has been a challenge for every business analyst, and it is going to be a challenge in the future as well, because the business stakeholders, they want all the requirements delivered as soon as possible, immediately, possibly in a single release. We know that's not going to happen. If you're having trouble convincing the business on the requirements prioritization, or you would need a technique or a guidance on the prioritization of the requirements, this is the video for you. In this video, we're going to cover the 4 key requirement prioritization techniques, which will help you to communicate with the business and get the highest business value items delivered first. So we are going to cover these 4 key prioritization techniques. So a lot of cover, we can get started. But before I do, I just wanted to tell you that this is one of the video in the business analyst techniques video series. So I've listed the other videos in the description box. So please feel free to go and check it out. And also, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, or you're seeing the video for our video for the first time, I would request you to go and hit the subscribe button and also the bell icon, so that you'll be notified when we do a new video. We do a weekly video on business analysis techniques, tools, concepts, and also the interview questions. So let's get started on the requirement prioritization techniques. As always, we'll be using a case study, and using the case study, we'll be driving the concepts of requirement prioritization. Again, this is a case study which we have used in several of our videos because it's very simple and easy for everyone to understand. But if you want me to use a different case study, I'm open to suggestions. Please feel free to comment your case study idea in the comment section, and we'll pick it up for the next videos. So in this case study, a movie chain named XYZ Cinemas, they're looking for a mobile app which will allow their customers to book movie tickets online. Simple as that. They don't want the customers to stand in the queue. They just want the customers to use their mobile app, book it, and enjoy the movie. So the features of the app which the client is looking for are registration, customer registration, login feature, the ticket booking ticket feature, and seat selection. So ability for the customers to select the seats in the theater, online payment, and again, number 6 is more of ordering refreshments like popcorn, Coke, within the app itself, so that they don't have to stand in the line for buying these. And the 7th feature they're looking for is, once the refreshments, popcorn or Coke are ordered, it can be delivered to the seats where the customers have booked using this particular online app. So it's a very good feature set, making the customer's life easy. So this is the features. So let's say how we will be using the requirement prioritization to deliver these features release by release. I know it's good to have everything at one shot, but again, we know it's not feasible. So let's see how we can use the different requirement prioritization technique to prioritize and deliver these in a release wise. Okay, let's get started with the first requirements prioritization technique called Moscow. It's one of the most commonly used technique worldwide. The requirements are basically classified into must, should, could, and would. Must are your mandatory requirements, without which there's no point in even having a release. So they are the highest priority items which has to get in. The next comes the should. The should are basically, they're also high priority items, but even if they're not delivered in a release, there are workarounds through which the same functionality can be satisfied. And then we have the could and would. So basically, could and would are nice to have. It's good to get them into release, but if you're not able to make it, that's okay. We can defer it to the next release. So let's see how we can apply this Moscow to our example case study. So if we prioritize the requirements, so the registration, the login, and the book tickets are the must. It's there are key things, like the purpose of the app is for the customers to book the tickets online, and the registration and login are a precursor basically in order to book the tickets, right? Whom are we booking against if they're not able to even create an account? And then the seat selection and make payment, agree, there are again high priority requirements, but without the ability for the customer to select the seats or make online payment, they can still book the seats online, right? The seats will be randomly assigned based on the best possible fit for the number of seats, and also the payment, they can walk in and pay the cash. I understand it's not a best customer experience, but we can still go ahead if we just have the book ticket feature and the registration login working fine. Seat selection and make payments can be handled as a workaround, with the cash, as we just talked about. And then we have the buying of the popcorn, coke, and having them delivered to the seat. Yeah, it's really nice to have, but it won't stop the release, because the purpose of the app is not to for the customer to order refreshments, but it's basically booking the tickets online. So that is the purpose. That's the reason these two things will become good. So now if we have this list sorted, must, should, and could, it's better when you have a discussion with the IT. Okay, you know what? These are our must, these are should, could, and if we have that clarity, it's both good for the from an IT perspective to get the build done. Also, it's good from a business perspective because we are uh, highlighting to the business that the higher value items are being delivered first. So it's a win-win in either way. Okay, moving on to the next technique on our list. The next technique is called ranking. So this is again another commonly used technique. Basically, this comes into place when, let's say, we have like 10 must, and then the problem again now comes is IT would have bandwidth only for, let's say, um, 7 of them. So again, we are in a fix. As we have stated in the previous technique, all the must should make it to the release. But now we are going to prioritize further. So that is where this technique comes into play, which is called ranking. Here, you rank those requirements from a scale of 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And the smallest rated requirements has to go in first. So if we apply this technique to our case study, it would look something like this. So the registration is first, then the login. We have the book tickets functionalities number 3, then the seat selection, make payment, buy refreshment served to the seat. So this is another way or another technique of basically ordering the requirements or the product backlog, because sometimes what will happen is if we go to the business and we still explain them, must, should, and could, they will again tell you, what, all these 10s are must. So it'll be again a bottleneck, it'll be a difficult situation. So in that scenario, you can use this technique. Okay, we understand these are must, let's try to rank them. When we rank them, there'll be much more clarity on the highest value or higher value items, so that again this clarity will help to get those higher value items delivered. Again, a very useful technique, and used again commonly worldwide. Okay, let's start to look at the requirement prioritization technique number 3, the Kano analysis. So again, this is a different view of looking at the requirements, and we're going to look at it exclusively from the customer's perspective, who's going to use the product. So here there are 3 factors. One is the basic factors, performance factors, and excitement factors. Basic factors are something like, if you don't have that feature in the app, then the customers are straight off disappointed. They won't even use the particular app or an application. And then we have the performance factors, so which are basically the drawing factor for the customers to use the application or the app. And then they are the next one is excitement factors. So these are basically your differentiator from the competitors and your USP or unique selling proposition. So customers will be like very excited to use the app or the application because of these particular features. So let's try to apply the Kano analysis to our case study. So it looks something like this. The registration, login, book tickets, pretty basic. Without them, there is no point even using the app, because if you're not even to book the tickets, why are we even using the app? And then seat selection and making online payment. Yep, it would be a, customers would be really happy to use this because they have the ability to select the seats, and they don't have to stand in a line again to pay the cash. So they'll be happy to make an online payment, just then get onto the theater, just walk in. And then the refreshments and the refreshments served to the seat, that would be an excitement factor basically. The reason for the reason for this is basically, well, again, there is a queue for buying refreshments. So if you're able to do that using the app, then it's like you just walk in after doing the booking. The you've selected the seats, you've made the online payments, and then when you arrive at the time of your choosing, you're getting your popcorn, coke. You don't have to stand anywhere, no line, nothing. Everything is taken care. So that is basically, like the customers will be excited to use this particular feature, and because of this, there will be more people being driven into this particular cinema, so it will increase the revenue. So these are some things. It's basically a different lens of doing the prioritization. So it's called the Kano analysis, and it's looking mostly from the customer's perspective. And the last technique we have on the list is called user story map. So basically, I've, I've covered thoroughly taking in another case study in one more video. I'm going to link it in the description box, so please go and check it out, where you will be shown how to build a story map from scratch and then to do the prioritization. So it's basically a visual representation of your entire product backlog from the the activity sequence of a user. So in our example would be the customer. When they order the book the tickets online, and the time they walk into the movie theater, watch the movie, and then get out. So this is basically a customer journey, we call it. And there would be tasks below it. So those would be your, the user stories. So basically, if you put this in a map, like somewhat we show this is basically an example of online home delivery ordering service. So you will be able to visualize it better, and the business will be able to visualize it better, because they will be able to see the end-to-end picture rather than a sequential list. And then we can go again and check with the business. Okay, this is how it is. Can you please which would be the highest benefit? We can put 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 the requirements in. So the release one, as we see here, it's called the MVP, or the minimum viable product. So that is like without which you cannot even go in. And then similarly, the other requirements are prioritized to release 2, release 3. it's a similar to what we have seen in the previous techniques, but again this is more visual and gives an end-to-end view for the business, which the other techniques won't give. So again, it's a very useful technique for them to understand and provide the the priorities. So you're basically assisting them to see the end-to-end picture, and which will be really appreciated. Yeah. So these are the 4 techniques, and what we are going to do is I've provided a link in the description for kind of downloading a quick cheat sheet, so you can download it, keep it for your reference, and start using it in your day-to-day job when you're dealing with the requirements and prioritization.
Hello there. In this video, we are going to cover questions pertaining to requirement gathering or elicitation, which is one of the key skills for a business analyst. In the previous video, we discussed identification and types of stakeholders, which is the first key step for business analyst post onboarding to a project. Once the BA has the list of stakeholders, the next step would be to engage them using different requirement gathering sessions to gather the requirements. We will cover the techniques used for gathering business requirements in this video and will focus on techniques for functional requirements in the next video. So, let's get started with the video. As always, we will use a simple case study which will make the concepts easy to grasp. Rahul is a BA working with a client running a restaurant called Vegan Gardens. The client is looking for a mobile app which will allow their customers to book a table. Moving on to question 1. What are the requirement elicitation techniques you have used in the past? This is one of the most commonly asked questions, and listed below are the commonly used requirement elicitation techniques. Some of them are document analysis, workshops, interviews, observation, focus groups, brainstorming, process analysis, prototyping, survey or questionnaire. We will discuss these techniques in detail in the upcoming questions. Based on your answer, the interviewer will ask deep dive questions on the techniques which you would have mentioned that you have used. So make sure you tell the technique which you have used. Question 2. What is the first elicitation method you would use? The answer in my view would be document analysis. This involves reading the existing documents available related to the project which you are working on. This will help to provide context and background while engaging with the stakeholders through other elicitation techniques. This will help you to identify the current state and the problems faced in the current business unit, process, and others. Going back to our case study, Rahul, our BA on the project, can request for and look into the below documents before engaging with the stakeholders. Organization chart. This would give the background of the people and business unit structure. As Vegan Garden Restaurant has several branches, the organization chart would provide information on number of branches and names of the key people in each branch. User manual and standard operating procedures. This would give Rahul a view of how the current table booking process works and which system is used by the staff. So Rahul will be familiar with the current systems and have a better understanding while speaking with the stakeholders. Rahul can also look at design documents, technical documents, process flows, problem reports, business rule documents, or any previously captured requirement documents, which would help, as stated earlier, in understanding the current state and context of the new project. Let us look at question number 3. In your opinion, what do you think is the best elicitation method? There is no right or wrong answer. You can answer based on your experience. In my view, the best elicitation method is the workshop technique, as you can gather high quality business requirements in a short span of time with a variety of stakeholders. The workshop technique involves getting all the key impacted stakeholders from different departments together for an extended period of time, like a day or two. to go over the project details and understanding from each of them what they are looking for as an outcome. Since we have the key stakeholders present, any conflict can be resolved, impacts can be identified, and can easily gain agreement from all the stakeholders at the same place. We will discuss this technique in depth in the next question. Question number 4. Can you tell me about a time when you conducted a workshop? If you have answered that you have used the workshop technique, then interviewer might ask this question to get an insight into your experience. For every requirement elicitation technique, as mentioned in Babok version 3, it has 3 phases: prepare, conduct, and post the session. Let us consider the workshop in context with our case study. Rahul, our BA, is going to use the workshop technique for gathering the business requirements for the online table reservation system. First off, Rahul needs to prepare for the workshop, which includes setting a clear purpose, which is to gather business requirements for the table reservation system, identifying the key stakeholders and ensuring they are available to attend the workshop. The key stakeholders would include the sponsor, who is the owner of the restaurant, the business managers from different branches, and senior operations staff who are involved in the table booking process currently. Once he has the list of the key stakeholders, he would schedule a place and time convenient for all the key stakeholders. Usually workshop is a full day or 2 days event. The venue should have all the facilities like whiteboard, projector, adequate seating, etc. And refreshments like coffee, snacks should also be arranged. Rahul chooses his company's conference room, which has a seating arrangement for 15 plus people, and invites the key stakeholders there for a full day workshop. He has also arranged for lunch and other refreshments. Next off, Rahul would make and share the agenda with the attendees. Agenda will have sessions or activities for that day so that the stakeholders come prepared. Sample full day agenda would be like this. 9 to 9:30 introductions can happen. 9:30 to 11:15 walkthrough of the current process. 11:15 to 12 break. 11:30 to 1 discussion on the target process design. 1 to 2 lunch break. 2 to 4 gathering the business requirements for the target state. 4 to 4:30 they can have a short break, and again 4:30 to 5 they can have a playback session. The first stage is key. If the preparation is good, then conducting the workshop is pretty easy. Moving to the second stage, conducting the workshop. The stakeholders meet at the venue on the day of the workshop, and Rahul uses the agenda shared earlier to drive the workshop and will try to adhere to the agenda as close as possible. As the workshop progresses, Rahul documents the discussions, requirements, and actions. If help is available, one can also use them for documentation during the workshop. They are referred to as scribe. The last stage is post the workshop, which would include activities like closing out any open actions raised during the workshop. Rahul can then share the captured business requirements for sign-off to the stakeholders. If required, Rahul can arrange a review session with the stakeholders to walk through the requirements captured for obtaining a sign-off. Moving on to the next question, question number 5. What are the challenges faced while using the workshop technique and how would you mitigate it? This is another follow-up question asked on workshop. The major challenge would be non-availability of the key stakeholders. Getting all the required people together for a day or two is by far a difficult task. Some mitigation would be the below approaches. Number 1. Explaining the importance of the workshop and how it will help to shape the system which they are trying to build. Number 2. Rescheduling to a suitable time so that everyone can attend. Number 3. In case a key person is not available, then asking them to send their deputy or a representative from their team. If still we are unable to get everyone together, Then covering off with the key stakeholders' individual interview is an option, which we will cover in the next slide. Next question, question number 6. Can you tell me about a time when you conducted an interview? If you have answered that you have used the interview technique, then interviewer might ask this question to get to know more about your experience. Like we spoke for the workshop, the interview elicitation technique has 3 phases: prepare, conduct, post the session. Let us continue with our case study and say one of the key stakeholder, Jim, who is the manager of customer support, could not attend the workshop. Rahul would then use the interview technique for sharing the outcome of the workshop and gather any missing business requirements from the customer support perspective. First off, Rahul needs to prepare for the interview, which includes setting a clear purpose, which is to gather business requirements from a customer support perspective. Schedule a place and time convenient for Jim to attend. Next off, Rahul would make a list of questions like what the customer support staff would like to see in the new system for answering the customer queries, what are the functionalities required in case there is change required by the customer, and so on, and share these questions in the meeting invite to Jim so that he can speak to the team upfront and have the answers ready. As stated earlier, first stage preparation is always the key. If the prep is good, then conducting the interview is pretty easy. Moving to the second stage, it was agreed to have a discussion on the conference call, and both Rahul and Jim joined the call for the interview. Rahul briefly touched upon the outcome of the workshop and then used the questions shared earlier to drive the interview process. Rahul used active listening techniques and made notes on the discussions, requirements, and open actions. Once all the questions were covered, Rahul thanked Jim for his time and informed that he will share the minutes of meeting and also the requirements captured for his review and sign off. Post the workshop, Rahul shared the minutes with open actions and also shared the requirements captured for review and sign off. Moving on to the next question. Question number 7. Can you tell me about a time when you conducted an observation session? If you have answered that you have used observation technique, then interviewer might ask this question to get to know more about your experience. Like we spoke for the previous 2 techniques, the observation elicitation technique also has 3 phases: prepare, conduct, and post the session. Let us go back to our case study. One of the open actions in the workshop was for Rahul to capture a time and motion study. That is, how much time does the current reservation process take, and also document the current steps taken by the staff to complete the booking. Rahul is going to use the observation technique for completing these 2 actions. First off, Rahul needs to prepare for the observation session, and he follows the following steps. Setting a clear purpose, which is to document the detailed process used by the staff now and do a time and motion study. Identifying the participants with the help of one of the branch managers and scheduling a convenient time for the session. Share the agenda with the participants upfront so that they are prepared for the session. As always, first stage is the key. If the prep is good, the rest follows easily. Moving to the second stage, Rahul meets the participants at their workplace at the scheduled time and briefs them on the required outcome and the reason for the same. Rahul uses passive observation technique. He captures the start time when a call is made by the customer and end time when the booking is made in the current system. It was around 3 minutes. He then asks the branch manager for a staff to make a note of the time from today so that the average time can be benchmarked and used for presenting back to the sponsor who wants to know this. He also observes a couple of staff and makes note on the steps taken by the staff for making the booking from the time when the customer calls and the booking is done on the system. Once the staff completes the booking, he asks a couple of clarifying questions on the doubts he had on the process. He then thanks the participants for their time and heads back to the office. The last stage is to ensure what he captured is right. He converts the steps into process diagram and sends it to the staff for review, and also follows up on the open action for the average time for booking process from the manager. Question number 8. Another follow-up question on observation. What is the difference between active and passive observations? There are two types of observations. First one, active observation. When the staff is performing the steps in the process, if you have any questions, you stop the staff and ask clarifying questions when they are performing that step to gain insights. Point number 2, passive observation. You make a note of all the questions and wait for the staff to complete all the steps in the process and then ask your questions. Active observation is used when you are more interested in specific part of the process, whereas passive is generally used to capture the metrics of the time taken to complete the process and for benchmarking. Question number 9. What is focus group and how to conduct one? This is similar to the workshop. You get the key people together at the same place to get their thoughts and opinions. Going back to our previous video where we discussed about personas, which are fictional characters who represent the typical customers, they are helpful to understand the customer's need and build the product accordingly. Based on brainstorming with the internal team, the requirements would have been logged on what these personas would need. Identifying and validating the needs of the personas are very important to ensure we are building a product which satisfies their need. Focus group is one such technique to use for that. Let us take two personas as example. First one, the office manager. This is a typical manager who has number of team members reporting to him. There would be quarterly or sometimes monthly team outings, and the manager is responsible for looking for fun places to have a team lunch or dinner. Their needs are quick snapshot of the service offerings and also the receipt of the bill emailed to them so that they can do claims for reimbursements as all the outings are billed to the company. Second one, family man. One who wants to book on weekends for brunch, lunch or dinner. He does not care about the digital copy of the bill but is very keen on services offered for the kids and the seating arrangements. If you see, just going at a high level, we have got two requirements. First one, soft copy of the bill to be emailed as a PDF. Second one, service offerings should be shown in the booking app or the website. Again, these are just assumptions and has to be validated. Focus group is one of the way to validate the assumptions made. Rahul can get the details of their previous regular customers from both the categories, office manager and family man, and arrange for a focus group session with them to go over the feature of the new online booking system. He also provides perks for participating in the session by giving them free lunch or dinner coupons at the restaurant. Again, similar to the workshop technique, agenda can be shared upfront to these people so that they are prepared. During the session, Rahul uses the agenda and goes over the list of business requirements captured to get their thoughts on each one of them. Rahul makes a note of the participants' feedback. Once all the items in the agenda are complete, then Rahul thanks the participants. Post the focus group session, Rahul compiles the report based on the insight received and shares with the key stakeholders. This would help to understand which business requirements are key to the target audience and which can be discarded or deprioritized. Let us look at question number 10. How can you gather requirements from a large number of people, or they can ask you to tell about a time when you used survey or questionnaire technique? Answer is survey or questionnaire technique. We cannot use any of the techniques we spoke about earlier due to the sheer volume. Continuing with our case study, Rahul wants to get a view on the thoughts of the Vegan Gardens existing customers on the new online booking system before starting the bill to ensure their requirements are satisfied. Going back to our 3 stages. In prepare stage, Rahul would compile a list of question and answer options to send out to the participants. It is important to have options for each question and not have a free text field, as it will be difficult to interpret the answers. Sample questions can be like, do you prefer a mobile app or a web app for making the booking? Do you want to receive reminders on your reservation? Using the questions, Rahul will create an online survey and get the survey link. In conduct stage, Rahul sends an email to 1000 plus existing customers of the restaurant to help to take the survey. He can also provide perks to the customers like discounts for participating in the survey, and it is very important to give a deadline for the customers to complete the survey. Otherwise, we cannot close the activity. Post the deadline date, Rahul can review the results of the survey and compile insights and log them as business requirements.
Hello there. Do you have a business analyst interview coming up shortly? If so, this is the video for you. In this video, we're going to look at the top 9 interview questions asked related to the requirement documents. As you're already aware, eliciting and documenting the requirements are one of the key aspects of a BA role. So the interviewer would be definitely interested in understanding the requirement documents which you have created in your past projects. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. I can assure you that there are going to be a couple of questions from this video which will be asked in your next business analyst interview. We're going to look at the BRD, FRDs, their contents and structure. We're going to also discuss on RTM, EPIC, user stories, their format, and also the acceptance criteria. So it's going to be an informative video, so make sure you watch it till the end. And also, if you have not already subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel right now so that you will be notified and you won't miss out on any of our future videos. To make it easier for grasping the concepts in the answers, we're going to use a case study. In this case study, a movie theater chain called XYZ Cinemas is looking to build a digital channel for allowing the customers to book their movie tickets online rather than calling up the customer care or standing in the long queues and getting their tickets at the ticket counter. So we are going to use this example case study for answering all the questions. Okay, let's get started. Question number 1. What are the different documents you're prepared for capturing requirements? This question, I would say, is a sure shot one, and it is asked in almost all the business analyst interviews. I've listed the majorly used documents. It varies from company to company, but these are the common ones. So the first one is the BRD, which is the business requirement document. The purpose of this document is to capture the business requirements and the business context of a particular change initiative. The second one is the functional requirement document, which is the FRD. The purpose is to capture the functional and non-functional requirements, and it kind of maps back into the business requirements. Then we have the use case document. Again, the purpose would be to document the use cases, which details the interaction between an actor and the system or the solution which we are trying to build. And then we have the activity diagrams. So this documents the flow of events, the interactions between the user and the system, and also the detailed step-by-step flow, which will help the IT team to build the solution which we're looking for. And then we have the wireframes. So the wireframes are basically used to provide a view of how the screen should be looking for the customer. So it will be the look and feel, the colors, and also the various user interface items. So all these things would be mocked up into the wireframes. And then we have the epics and user stories. So all the documents which we just spoke about are used in the traditional waterfall model. But in case if a project is using agile, the requirements are captured in epics, which is again the high level requirements, and then the user stories, which are epics are broken down into user stories. So, and all the use cases, activity diagram, wireframes are all converted into supporting models, and they are basically attached to the user stories or the epics to provide more context and a better understanding of what is required to the IT team so that they can build it accordingly. And the last one, common one which is used, is the RTM, which is the requirement traceability matrix. It is basically used to trace the requirements backward and forward, right from the business requirements to the test case and vice versa. We're going to talk about all of these in details in the further slides. Moving on, question number 2. What are the contents of BRD, or the business requirement document? Again, this is a question asked to gauge your depth of experience of preparing such kind of documents. So you can use an example to provide the contents of the BRD. And I've listed few of the components here, but again, it varies from company to company, project to project, but these are the few common building blocks. So the first one would be the executive summary. So if you're looking at our example, this summary would state that the business XYZ Cinemas is looking for a digital channel for the customers to book their movie tickets, and the business context will provide why they are looking for this change initiative. Well, here in this context, like it's just to make it more convenient for the customer to book online rather than standing up in the long queues or calling up other customer care and waiting for it to be confirmed. So that is the customer convenience. And also, if you look it from the staff perspective, this can help to free up for some of the staffs who are doing these rules, and they can be allocated to other priorities, other opportunities. And then there will be a current state and target state. Current state will be a basic business process flow, like what's happening now when the customer comes in, goes to the ticket counter, and similarly what happens when they call up the customer care. And the target state will be how the customer, the target state process flow will show how the customer will be using this digital solution to book the tickets, and how they will be permitted into the cinema halls. The end-to-end business process flow, how the target state would be. So this will give more context to all the stakeholders involved, and also to the engineering team, IT, and the testing team, the development testing team, to understand what is being done and why it is being done. And then the scope section would actually have what are the things which are in scope for now. So let's say if you're looking for the solution, whether we want it to be limited only to the web app or a web login, or do we want to also develop a mobile app where the customer can book their ticket. So this would be the scope, and it should be pretty clear what is in scope and what is out of scope. And then comes the business and the stakeholder requirements. So these are the requirements which are needed to achieve the target state. So this can talk about the requirements related to the customers able to book the tickets online, and also the cancellations. What are the things the customer can do with the online channel? And also similarly on the staff side, it can be like how the staff can identify these book tickets, how they can let the customer into the hall. So all of these requirements would be under these sections. And then the next one would be the assumption. So what are the assumptions for this initiative? So one of the assumption I can think of is, once this channel is available, the customers will start using it. That's a basic assumption. And then the dependencies, what are some things which have to be in place for this thing to work? And then the business rules, if there's any rules, for example, like they might have a rule that only a maximum of 10 tickets can be booked at one time. So this is a business rule. This can be translated and documented for a functional requirement, and ensure that the digital solution also holds this business rule true. And then the last section would be a glossary, which will just summarize all the abbreviation acronyms used in the whole document. So just to give a view of the person who is reading the document to understand it better. So these are some common sections in a BRD. Moving on, question number 3. What are the contents of a functional requirement document, or FRD? So this is similar to our previous question. Again, they want to understand your depth of knowledge in preparing such documents. So quickly going to list out all the common sections which is used in drafting FRD. So first one would be the purpose. Again, what is the purpose of this particular document? Uh, how you can borrow some context from the BRD to put it here. Similarly, the scope section again can be borrowed from the BRD. What is in scope, what is out of scope, so it's very clear. And then comes these functional and non-functional requirements. So these are the system related requirements, and here you'll be documenting what the system should do. In our example, if we take this would talk about how the customer should be able to see the list of shows, the list of seats which are available for each show, and where they can select the seats and also make an online payment. So these are basically a translation of the business requirements into the functional requirements, which basically again what you want the system to do, and these are all linked back to the business requirements. Similarly, a business rule which we spoke about, the maximum of 10 seats can be booked, that also can be translated to a functional requirement, ensuring only 10 seats can be booked online. And then we come to the non-functional requirements. So these are the requirements related to the performance, the security, stability of this online solution. So one such example is responsiveness. We want the system to respond within 2 seconds of the user's input. So for example, user selects a date, within 2 seconds, the customer should be able to see the next screen. So that's one example of it. Then the assumptions we just spoke about, and then the major chunk of this document would be the supporting models, which will provide more context to the engineering team, and helping them to understand how we want the solution to work so that they can build it accordingly and test it as well. So this is about the use case diagrams, activity diagrams, mockups, which we just spoke about earlier. So all of these would comprise will be part of a FRD. And then the last one is a glossary, again just to provide more context on the acronyms and the abbreviations used. Question number 4, what is the format and contents of an epic? So far we discussed about the waterfall methodology and the documents used. When we come to Agile, it's very document light and all the requirements are captured in the form of epic or user stories. Epics are at high level and then they are broken down into detailed user stories. So I've listed down the key components of an epic in this slide. Ideally, in essence, what an epic has is who, what, and why. Who requires it? What is required? Why is it required? So this is kind of a format which is used to capture the requirements. So a template which I've provided, which is a commonly industry-wide format which is used across, as a who requires it, I want, what is required, so that why is it required. So that's a format. If you look at an example, as a customer, I want to pay for my movie tickets online so that I don't have to stand in queue to pay cash at the movie theater. So this is again a customer convenience requirement where we are talking about the ability for the customer to pay online for the movie tickets which they have booked. So it captures the requirement in this particular format, and it also has some additional information like priority. What is the priority of the requirement? Is it a must, should, or a could? Or if you're using ranking, it can be prioritized as 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. So it all helps in the prioritization of the backlog so that the highest value item is delivered first. And then this has the business context, so it provides more context on why this particular requirement is listed in first place. So all the things which we spoke about in BRD, so those things can be added here as a business context. And then it has links to the detailed user stories. So if you look at an epic, it gives a high level requirement of what is required. In the next slide, we'll speak about the detailed user stories. Question number 5, what is the format and contents of an user story? So we are building upon from the previous question, which is the epic, and these are the detailed user stories. So the format of a user story is very similar to the epic: who, what, and why. So what I try to provide as an example is the epic spoke about how the customer should be able to pay online, and in these two user stories we are breaking down it further. So if you look at the first one, as a customer I want to pay online using my debit or credit card for my movie tickets. Again, he wants to avoid standing in queue. The second user story talks about customers' ability to pay online using the online banking portal. So for example, they don't want to use their credit card, they want to use their online banking, net banking portal. So this breaks down the Epic into more details of the channel which the customer wants to use. We can still have more user stories like the mobile wallets, PayPal, etc., etc. So this kind of gives you a view how an Epic is kind of linked to the user story and what is the format. And the user story also has like additional information like the priority, similarly, must, should, could, or high, medium, low, again 1, 2, 3, 4 ranking. And then it will also have the Epic which is linked to, and then the acceptance criteria which will we speak about in the next slide, and also the supporting models. So the use cases, activity diagrams, the mockups which we spoke earlier, all of them would be created and attached to the user story as a supporting model to provide more